as a title, Jesus Among Friends and Enemies suggests, the book is ultimately focused on understanding the portrayals of Jesus in the Gospels, or at least how the storytellers, the authors, tell the story about Jesus and make contributions to the reader's knowledge of who Jesus is, and use the characters around him in order to do that. So it aims for kind of a larger portrait of Jesus that includes not just what the authors say about Jesus himself, but what it says about his acquaintances, his friends, and his enemies. There are at least two things that are unique contributions in the book in terms of classroom usage. And the first one is the focus on these characters. A lot of times in introductory courses, we have things where we introduce Jesus through titles for Jesus, or we introduce him through each gospel author's perspective. And so one of the things that we're contributing here is a focus on a part of the narrative that's a very important part of the narrative that usually gets left out. And so, for example, can you really know what the author thinks about Jesus' identity as the Christ without seeing Peter misunderstand that in his confession of Jesus as Christ? So this is one example of many where the gospel authors actually use these characters in order to show the reader either how to or how not to understand Jesus himself. The second unique contribution that this textbook has is its divide of the chapters into a socio-historical section in the first and a narrative section in the second. And by that I mean the first section of each chapter, which focuses on a particular character or group of characters. The first section of each of those chapters focuses on it asks, what can we know about this character from the general historical record? How were they remembered throughout the historical record outside of the canonical Gospels? And the second half of each chapter focuses on how the narrative of the Gospels themselves portray this character. So the reader of Jesus Among Friends and Enemies gets a sense for who everybody else said these characters were versus, or in comparison to, who the Gospel authors say that this character was. And so this book really is designed for the professor who does not want to choose between a socio-historical textbook and a narrative textbook, or in other words, doesn't want to have to choose between introducing their students just to the historical context of Jesus or just to the literary artistry of the gospel authors. If this is for the professor who doesn't want to make that choice.